Here is the menu ending explained. Directed by Mark Mylod from a screenplay by Seth Reiss and Will Tracy. The Menu is a dark comedy that follows celebrity chef Julian Slowik, Ralph Fiennes, as he puts his affluent restaurant guests through a dining experience like no other, but not for the reasons those paying $1,250 per head to eat at Hawthorne, the restaurant on Slowik's private island, expect. Once the 11 guests, including Tyler, Nicholas Hoult, and Margot, Anya Taylor-Joy, disembark from the chartered ferry, things start going awry. Tyler's tense conversation with the South chef gives audiences an early clue that everything is not as it seems, and Slowik's dinner guests soon discover he may have invited them for something far more sinister than gourmet cuisine. The menu's cast features an incredibly solid lineup including Ralph Fiennes, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Nicholas Hoult, and after its initial theatrical run, the menu hit HBO Max on January 3, 2023. While its climax feels a little ambiguous, the movie's core themes well. At the end of the menu, Chef Slowik, along with what remains of his staff, burns down Hawthorne, with all the guests save for Margot still inside. Margot escapes, watching as Hawthorne goes up in flames with Tyler and the other guests trapped within, punished for their excessive wealth and self-indulgence by Slowik. It's a dark ending to a film that grows increasingly violent throughout, while maintaining its bleak comedic tone. And the menu's story has plenty of layers, ready to be peeled back and explored. Chef Slowik's plans for the evening, which he slowly revealed after each course, were sinister, but not without purpose. The violence, murder, and burning down of Hawthorne weren't random or sadistic. Chef Slowik is punishing Hawthorne's guests because they are the cause of the fine dining industry's pretentiousness and elitism, both of which eroded his joy for cooking over the course of his career. The guests' wealth has pushed the food industry forward, but it has also made the dining experience costly, widening the gap between socioeconomic classes and sucking the life and pleasure out of the tasting experience. Chef Slowik feels a shadow of his former self, and his resentment of the gluttonous elites who use landing a table at the Hawthorne as a show of status became so overpowering he had to act. Chef Slowik, Ralph Fiennes, wanted to make his guests, all used to wealth allowing them to live free from consequence, feel embarrassed and affronted. Slowik's clientele are shallow and disconnected from the authentic human experience, something he seeks to remedy. The celebrity chef made his guests experience what it was like to feel helpless at someone else's mercy. He wanted them to taste true powerlessness before they died. The fact their consumerist elitism was also responsible for the art being lost from cooking in Slowik's eyes only fueled his rage. And by the end of the menu, he'd had plenty of opportunities to act on the decades of repressed hatred. Throughout the menu, Chef Julian Slowik is perplexed by Margot's presence. As the film unfolds, audiences learn that Chef Slowik has a very particular plan, and Margot is simply not meant to be a part of it. Margot, Anya Taylor-Joy, is not wealthy or pretentious, nor does she see his cuisine as anything but food, rather than an experience. Chef Slowik finds in her a kindred spirit of sorts, someone who understands what it's like to grow up with very little, that has gamed the system in some way to get ahead. That Chef Slowik wants to punish the elite, but not Margot, Anya Taylor-Joy, who has not harmed anyone or an entire industry. Chef Slowik is renowned for the exquisitely detailed menus of the Hawthorne, creating elite dining experiences costing thousands. However, Margot is unimpressed with his food and its presentation, not understanding what the big deal is. Margot challenging Chef Slowik to make a delicious hamburger catches him off guard, but it's this very request and Margot's approval of the meal that are why Margot is allowed to leave, as she reminds him of his roots and the joy of eating a well-prepared meal. The fact that Margot is not pompous about the hamburger suggests she understands the experience of mindfully tasting food more than any of Chef Slowik's pretentious guests pretend to, and since she holds none of the wealth or pomposity he's grown so resentful of, explain just how much of a fraud Tyler really was. Throughout the night, Tyler is constantly trying to prove himself to Chef Slowik by name-dropping different products and methods the chef uses to create his signature dishes. Slowik does him one better by inviting Tyler into the kitchen, even giving him a chef's coat, and demanding that Tyler cook for his guests. What happens to Tyler is that he haphazardly creates an undercooked lamb, humiliating himself in front of his hero and all of Slowik's guests. Chef Slowik then whispers something into Tyler's ear, to which Tyler replies yes, chef, before excusing himself. Before long, it's revealed that whatever Chef Slowik whispered, it caused Tyler to hang himself with his own necktie. While it's never fully revealed what Slowik whispered into Tyler's ear, that it was probably something along the lines of kill yourself. One of the biggest twists of the evening is that Tyler was aware of Slowik's plan, but attended the dinner anyway, bringing Margot along. Despite knowing that everyone would die, Tyler had already chosen his death. He just expired sooner than expected. Bringing Margot along without any regard for her life reveals his disdain toward the lower class and service workers. Tyler spent his entire life idolizing Slowik, only for his hero to despise him and prove in front of an audience that he's a fraud. Tyler was already prepared to die for the chef, and after such humiliation, his suicide was most likely a sycophantic attempt to prove his dedication and redeem himself. As the guests slowly begin to realize that there is no escape in store for them after the ferry operator turns out to be a plant by Slowik, Margot tries to plot her own escape. She strides to the kitchen, telling Slowik that she doesn't like his food, and that she's still hungry. Slowik asks what she wants, and Margot, recalling the picture she saw in his cabin, asks for a cheeseburger with fries. Slowik tenderly makes this meal for her, and when she asks for it to go, he gives her a doggy bag, and she escapes via the ferry. The final shot sees Margot on the ferry eating her cheeseburger while Hawthorne burns to the ground. Several theories have emerged about the meaning of the cheeseburger in the menu. One of them is that the burgers are made from human meat, probably Tyler and the South chef. Another is that the cheeseburger in the menu is poisoned, which would explain why Margot was allowed to leave, as Slowik expected her to die anyway. However, the cheeseburger is more symbolic than anything. The humble cheeseburger is where celebrity chef Julian Slowik got his start as a cook, and where his love of cooking began. Margot realizes this after he mentions to her that he finds no joy in his art anymore, and she asks for the cheeseburger at the end of the menu in a last-ditch effort to reignite some sort of spark for the chef. Thankfully for Margot, this works. Chef Slowik sees she is different from his other guests and allows her to leave. Slowik's passion for food began when he was a line cook, as evidenced by the picture in his cabin, and he found his joy in making simple albeit delicious food. Margot's simple request for a cheeseburger in the menu rekindled some of Slowik's love for his craft. After years of serving patrons like Hawthorne's doomed guests eroded it, Chef Slowik gives his guests the opportunity to leave Hawthorne and the remote island, which was filmed on Jekyll Island, Georgia. But the guests don't seem to try that hard. The chef knew exactly what made them tick, and how they would react, and foresaw that they'd likely make no real attempt to leave. However, as a failsafe, the celebrity chef also ensured that he had blackmail material. The guests still felt stuck because Slowik had information on them that they didn't want to be made public. Most of these secrets were revealed in the taco course, which saw individual etchings on the tortillas displaying his guests' secretive doings. For example, Lillian's writings as a food critic had closed down numerous restaurants, and Richard was a serial adulterer. Bryce, Dave, and Soren were embezzling money, and George's taco etching was a movie poster of a flop film he did simply for the money. With every course in the menu dripping with meaning, Chef Slowik knew that his guests' reputation and pride took precedence over their survival instincts. Money talked above all else, and the menu's guests would rather face death than deal with the consequences of Chef Slowik releasing certain information. Despite the men getting a 45-second head start, they didn't try all that hard to escape, being found easily by Slowik's staff. The women, on the other hand, didn't even try to escape at all. Rather, they went back inside Hawthorne's dining hall and talked among themselves, ultimately except Chef Slowik's staff went along with his devious plan for one reason only: devotion. This devotion towards the menu's villain is primarily shown through Elsa and Slowik's South chef. The South chef is the first death of the evening, shooting himself in the head when Slowik affirms that his dish is good, but not good enough. Elsa truly shows how invested she is when she tries to kill Margot, because Slowik asked Margot to find the barrel for the dessert course, rather than her. Throughout the entire evening, the staff's undying devotion to their leader is abundantly clear. Every demand is met with a uniform yes chef, and their almost militaristic work ethic sees them as a conglomerate force, rather than individual people. For whatever individualistic reasons, Chef Slowik has found a ride-or-die staff that is devoted to his overall vision, no matter the cost. Anya Taylor-Joy's the menu character Margot, like everyone in the film, isn't who she says she is. However, it isn't until Chef Slowik takes notice of her that it's revealed something is amiss about her backstory. Margot is actually a sex worker whose real name is Erin. It's established Erin has well-paying clientele because Richard, who frequents Hawthorne with his wife, has hired Margot before. Margot's work is intriguing to Chef Slowik, and he believes they, unlike the other guests in the menu, understand each other in a way no one else does or can. Margot is not a rich snob, but is someone who is burdened by the wealthy, like Tyler, while profiting from them at the same time. The final course in the 2023 HBO Max movie The Menu is an elevated s'mores dish. After the staff covers the floor in crushed graham crackers and various sauces, the guests are made to don a sort of cowl made of marshmallows and hats made of chocolate. Slowik chose this particular dish because it is an odd mixture of flavors that is only made perfect because of fire. After this explanation, the entire restaurant is set alight, and the guests burn alive, fulfilling Slowik's wishes. The s'mores are another callback to the celebrity chef's humble beginnings, but the true meaning found in his speech is that they are perfected by fire, bringing his murderous plan full circle as he sets his guests alight. The Menu, and its real-life inspiration, is an examination of exorbitant consumer culture, of foodies, and the superficiality of the wealthy, who believe they're giving to the fine dining experience when they're really leeching from it. The film has a lot to say about the origins of the food Chef Slowik's guests enjoy from the working class and poor primarily, and how that very food, when overly commercialized and treated as an experience for the rich, becomes less creative and enjoyable over time. An example of this is Chef Slowik's passion for creating meals fading, because his guests don't truly taste the food, so obsessed with the details of the meal than in the pleasure it provides. The Menu ending explained that it is also a commentary on the class divide, like the horror movie Parasite, and how the rich gentrify experiences such as fine dining, and make them entirely inaccessible to all but the elite for no reason other than to be socially exclusive. This is shown in Tyler's obsession with Chef Slowik's use of ingredients. Tyler doesn't much care about the food itself. He cares that he can use it to feel superior to everyone he believes won't appreciate Slowik's work, such as Margot. This snobbery, and Tyler's eagerness to indulge it, ultimately seals his fate at the end of the menu. But the fact the guests die as human s'mores, a dish that is anything but pretentious, adds a layer of irony, which nonetheless makes the themes of class divide abundantly clear. Stay tuned and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.